Hello everybody, we are back with another Plus Ultra chapter and review for you guys. I'm not sorry. I will never be sorry for that. But yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with this. It seems like you guys, it seems like based on the reviews that we got on the prologue, people are kind of warming up to this thing. So why don't we go ahead and jump onto the reviews for the first chapter. Like, first proper chapter, not a prologue.
Yeah, alright.
So who do we have? So,
Simon, I think this one is for the introduction, actually, because we didn't get to his last time.
You're late, man.
Alright. Oh boy, here we go again with the dark starts. Hopefully it doesn't get edgy. Haha. I'll already state a personal criticism, given that I see you're preparing your Dragon Ball looking OC with Mina Ashido. And I'm a hardcore shipper of Kirishima and Mina. We actually are too. So reading those scenes might grind my gears a bit, but I'll try to keep my personal feeling in check to give this a chance to be not too biased for when it actually starts up. Oh, and if you're going to be doing video responses to reviews on this too, will you be continuing the Sandtail ones as well? I miss those videos. Anyway, see you next time, either here or on Sandtail.
All right. So that's a fairly short review for him. There's still a lot to unpack in that.
It was a very short intro.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so real quick, no, the Sandtail review videos are not going to be happening. I miss them too, honestly, but I'm so far ahead of them at this point that I just don't see I don't see it worth the effort to try and catch up. And it's just like, and like that story's not getting quite as many reviews as it used to. That's not to say that I don't appreciate the reviews that are being put up. I really do. But the reason that I'm going to keep going with this review responses is because this is an ongoing project, and I've made time out for this. It won't be as much of an erratic thing. So I hope that answers that concern of yours. Let's see. I'm not going for edgy on this story, and I think the only other one that is ongoing right now that I could call edgy is Shattered Fragment.
Yeah, probably.
And even with the more recent chapters on that, I don't think it could be considered edgy anymore.
It's been pretty fluff. There's been a lot of fluff.
A little bit of fluff. It's good fluff. It's good. Okay, all right. I feel like I hear fluff, and I feel like I'm being judged.
No.
Oh, okay.
See, I feel like fairy tale fluff is borderline painful, whether it's real fairy tale or anyone's fan fiction. And I feel like with Shattered Fragment, it's been dark enough that it's been...
Some of the fluff is justified.
Anyway, yeah. What about with Mina and Kirishima?
Okay, so we're actually Mina Kirishima shippers ourselves.
Totally do.
And that will clear... Like, I can't spoil anything for you guys, or I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, but, that... the chemistry between Mina and Kirishima, or the potential of it anyways, that will definitely play into these characters' relationships, as it were.
Yeah. It's just, I think with this new personality that Joe's throwing into the mix, he of all the girls, you felt like Mina kind of fit with him the best.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we don't like her and Kirishima. Ooh. We love the anime and we love the way the direction it's going. We're enjoying it so much.
Yes.
But of all the girls, her personality definitely kind of was a nice contrast with his.
And I'll put this out there, it's they're in high school. Physical chemistry is also going to be a very large part of who's going to be attracted to who. I try to say this in a not perverted manner, I'll say, because I don't know.
I really want to know where this is going.
Well, I mean, you remember what it's like being in high school. You don't. It's oh, I am intellectually attracted to this person. No, you see someone from across from you, you're like, they hot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you know something about that, huh?
Shut up.
This girl saw me from staring across the dance floor and was like, hey, he's cute. And then I happened to catch her staring at me. And I was like, hey, she is also cute. I'm going to go talk to her. So that's what I mean by that.
Lucky for me, he's an extrovert. Because I never would have spoken to him. Anyway, we like Mina and Kirishima also, but...
I love the rabbit holes that these reviews lead me on.
Yeah. Great.
All right, so with that, are we out of the prologue and into the proper chapter 1 chapters? Okay, chapter 1 chapters, chapter 1 reviews. I'm sorry.
All right. So Joe Clone. This was... Oh, wait. Oh, I see. Sorry, my brain's not working. I see chapter 2, but this is actually... Never mind.
Yeah.
I got you. My bad. Joe Clone. This was really cool. Next chapter looks like it'll be Kurai and Midoriya meeting in class. Wonder how the election for class president will go.
The election for class president doesn't happen till like, I want to say like episode 7 in the anime. So that's a few chapters away, but
even so, yeah, he's right, because those two are gonna meet, and we'll see. You know, I'm curious to see what you guys think that their relationship's gonna look like. Mm-hmm. Can't give it away quite yet.
Yep. I mean, I don't really have much to add to that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
But yes, I'm interested to see it too.
Yeah. All right, Meijin Lightus, great chapter mate. I'm guessing Kurai can do a lot more than just fire off energy with his quirk. But that's just what I think. Blade Hero, light shining out.
I would say that. This chapter.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't the same sentence. Continue. I'm sorry. I read that weird. I apologize. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was his goodbye. I used it as the same sentence.
Oh, that's okay. So the chapter they're reviewing, that's when that's basically the entrance exam. Like we kind of get. Yeah, we get like the surface of what some people's quirks can do. You're right. He's firing off energy bolts is not all he can do. You kind of see that he can. You kind of see that he can like also use that power to reinforce his body. Like he jumps a tall building with a single bound. Although we're not talking like the Empire State Building, we're talking like a. I want to say we're talking like a 10-story building maybe, and like even from there he can. Even from there, you guys remember the episode where Deku's, like, running around, like, the buildings in there were, like, kind of normal for a city, but even so, that's not, like, I'm clearly not going to be jumping that kind of distance, but, he can use it to reinforce his body. But I'm a little offended by this. But yes, I do have a few treats in store for what his powers allow him to do.
Cool. All right. So... he says, Blade Hero Light signing out. Sorry.
Is Blade Hero Light like your character's like hero name? If so, cool.
Alright. Sundown 17. A little curious. Is Mataris going to be in this? And will he and Kurai know each other? Also, do you have a hero name prepped for him?
Okay. I actually like this review because it gives me a chance to... Okay, so let me say this right now. Mataris will... If he appears, he's in no way going to be a main character of any sort. It'll be more like a cameo than anything. And if he does show up, it'll be like one time, maybe two. That's it. Like
not really
this is not
impact the story.
No, not at all. Like he'll show up, people be like, "Hey, I don't think I'll even name drop him really. It'll have to be some if I do include him, it'll have to be something that you guys are like watching out for. Like if you really pay attention, it'll be like, "Was that Oh, that kind of thing. Let's see.
All right, and then do you have a hero name prepped for him?
I do have a hero name prepped for Kurai, but you guys aren't gonna get to know it quite yet. So ha.
All right. Then here's Simon's review for Chapter 1. Already, I'm bored and not fond of this Dragon Ball-like character. I've never been a fan of OCs that are almost Mr. Perfect's levels of status and power. Having this kid go to the same elite school as Iida and having a broken OP quirk that badly wrecked the practical exam and even scoring that high of a score was just ridiculous in my opinion. I'll give you the next chapter a chance on whether I'll stick around for this one or pass on it.
Okay. I justify this by the context of the headliner that's on fanfiction.net. The headliner is basically All for One and One for All have basically made those that have it stand out as gods among men, even in a world full of superpowers. The premise of the story is, hey, what if there's another quirk out there that has the potential to become just as powerful as that? I told you guys that that's how this is going to go. He is supposed to be overpowered. And so
far he seems like he might be kind of a Gary Stu, but we'll see.
We'll see how that works. And like any other quirk out there is a limit to this one.
And there's drawbacks.
There is drawbacks, and that's what you're going to see in my dramatic reading that's coming up. Mm-hmm. I can promise you that. Funny that you say my Dragon Ball inspired character. You don't like him. That's funny because I don't remember you liking Goran very much, or Kaidan, however you want to call him, from Saiyan Tail. And I still don't think you'll like him all that much, but you definitely stuck around for the narrative that I constructed with him. And I'm fairly confident that I'll be able to convince you to stick around for this one, too. So,
goodness.
yeah.
He's not very nice to you, but somehow you keep coming back to his stories, so...
He's not nice to me! This is a give-take relationship!
Mm-hmm. You guys are very entertaining. Alright.
Alright. Was there anything else on that I missed?
That was, I think, he talked about how he's not really into Mr. Perfect's original characters.
I'm not either. I've stated this so many times.
You don't.
Why have you not learned to trust me that I am going to provide you with flaws that you will love?
Yeah, he will. Yeah, he's not. Don't worry. Joe loves writing these really messed up characters, and then he will continue to get more so as time goes by, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I do acknowledge that you told me to keep it up at the end of that, and I will keep it up, and I am going to do my best to win you over to this. I'm confident that I can do so.
And then that was about it. He's going to give the next chapter a
Yep.
chance, and keep it up, though.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter, and hopefully every chapter after that.
Alright.
Thank you so much, guys, for your reviews. Now, I urge you to enjoy my dramatic reading of the second proper chapter of Your Hero Academia. We'll be right back. First day. Okay, Iida, when are you going to remember that the general population does not have jet engines in their legs? Kurai complained to his friend as they walked up the stairs to what would be their homeroom. The two of them had been delighted to discover a few days ago that they would be in the same class, Hero Course 1A. We should always arrive at least 10 minutes early, Iida said stubbornly. A good hero is always early whenever possible. Not unless his sidekicks are threatening to unionize and revolt against him because he never learned how to relax, Kurai groaned. He and his friend had met up to walk to school together, or so the smaller of the two boys had thought. As it turned out, Iida had decided to run all the way to school from their meeting point, forcing Kurai to keep up, much to his chagrin. Are you my sidekick in this situation? Iida teased him. I'll show you how good my sidekick is the next time you make me run that far any time before noon, Kurai grumbled. But a run in the morning has always been shown to increase cardiovascular... Iida, you sound like you swallowed a medical textbook. His friend interrupted as they emerged into the floor where their homeroom was. Some of us mortals like a little something called taking it easy. This is why you've never been able to match my test scores. Iida grinned as they came to a massive door with the designation 1A on it. You mean except for that one where I broke the school record for the practical exam? Kurai shot back a little smugly. You're never going to let up on that, are you? Iida sighed. Nope. With that, the two friends entered their classroom, surprised to find that a handful of students had already arrived. Two of them were girls that were talking quietly to one another, one with long black hair done up in a stylish ponytail, and the other with the short hair the same color. Neither of them looked too odd, though the one with the short hair did have what looked to be an auxiliary jack hanging from her earlobe. 3 boys were in the classroom, though none of them were speaking to each other. The one that grabbed Kurai's attention first was sitting in the back, his expression completely passive. His appearance would have been what could call normal, if not for the fact that the right side of his face was framed by pure white hair and had a brown eye staring out of it, while the left side contained a sky blue orb framed by red hair. Perhaps even more startling than the variety of colors was the nasty burn scar that covered half the majority of the left side of his face. How on earth did he get that? Kurai wondered, then averted his gaze to another student before his glance could become a full-on stare. The next student that he noticed was a blond young man with a thick, muscular tail that reached up to rest on his left shoulder. The tail was hairless, save for a small tuft of blonde that matched the student's head, which somehow made it look weirder in Kurai's opinion. The last student in the room had spiky red hair and a large grin on his face as he got up to greet his new classmates. Hey there, he said as he came to stand a couple feet away from the pair. You guys here for the hero course? I was born for the hero course, Iida said proudly as he reached out to shake hands with the redhead. Actually, Iida wasn't born, he was factory issued. Kurai snickered, causing the other student to laugh delightedly. Iida, meanwhile, shot at his friend an annoyed look, which he pretended not to notice. Nice to see this class will have someone I can laugh with, the other boy said as he moved to shake hands with Kurai. My name's Dejiro Kirishima. Who are you guys? As my companion stated here previously, my name is Iida, the bespectacled teenager said by way of introduction. It's good to meet you, Kirishima. And I'm Hikari, his friend added. He was surprised when Kirishima looked at him with something close to awe, so he asked, What is it? Are you that guy that took down over half the training robots on your own, including the zero-pointer? Kirishima asked excitedly. Kurai became uncomfortably aware of the other students looking at him with interest out of the corners of his eyes, but he forced himself to answer. I guess so. I mean, I didn't know that I'd taken out over half of them. I'm sure that's just an exaggeration. Dude, Kirishima laughed. Some of the other students are saying you're going to be the next All Might. I can believe that. a familiar voice said from behind them, causing the three boys to look around at the doorway. Mina Ashido stood there, smiling and bubbly as ever as she stepped in the classroom to say, I watched him take down the 0-point robot like it was a big piñata. Didn't even take him a big finishing move or hardly any time at all. Yo, Ashido, Kirishima said as he moved forward to high-five the pink girl. You saw this guy in action? What was he like? It was apparent from the familiarity of his tone that the two of them knew each other. Kurai reddened with embarrassment and spoke before she could to say, I just took the opportunity that I saw, that's all. Mumbling an excuse, he went and found his assigned seat, which placed him against the far wall in the row second to last. As he sat down, he hoped that the spot would be inconspicuous enough to hide him away from any further inquiries like Kirishima's. Kurai was something of an introvert, though he didn't have any issues meeting with new people, so long as it was one-on-one, like when he had met Mina, or if he was surrounded by several people that he already knew. However, if there were already rumors circulating about his skill in battle, he knew he would hardly get a moment's peace outside of the classroom, if Kirishima's reaction was anything to go by. The class quickly filled up in the next couple of minutes, and Iida made himself busy lecturing several of the new classmates about the proper treatment of their equipment. Kurai chose to keep his head down instead of arguing with his friend about making good first impressions, and instead concentrating on observing the people that he would be spending the next 3 years with. He watched with mild interest as a dozen more students came into the room, some looking like comic book characters, such as a tall young man with 6 arms, and others just as normal as his own appearance. The boys outnumbered the girls by about 3-1 according to his estimate, though there was still a couple of people that hadn't come in yet. Everyone seemed friendly enough, with the exception of the half-and-half boy and a blonde boy with crimson eyes that was slouching in his seat 2 rows in front of Kurai. It wasn't that he was quiet like the others, though. This boy was loud and obnoxious, as if the belief that the person in the room who shouted the loudest would command the most respect. So, of course, it was only natural that Iida would butt heads with him. Stop disrespecting school property! The bespectacled teenager demanded of their blonde classmate. The other boy drawled as if bored. Looking up at Iida, he asked, They shove a stick up your ass at whatever prep school you came from, or were you just born with it? Iida frowned, then to his credit, forced himself to calm down and extend a hand out to the blonde kid. Let's try starting over, he said peaceably. I'm Tenya Iida from the Somei Private Academy. And you are? Somei, huh? The blonde boy snorted, ignoring the offered hand. That means you think you're better than me, huh? Well, I'm gonna enjoy tearing you a new one. At the last of his words, the boy's face split with what could only be described as a feral smile. Iida recoiled a half-pace and gasped, You would threaten your own classmate? Are you sure you're in the right class? The blonde boy scoffed and looked as though he was about to respond, but then the door slid open to reveal another newcomer, quieting them both. The boy in the doorway looked a little frazzled when he saw Iida and the blonde boy, but said nothing as nearly every eye turned to examine him. He was incredibly plain-looking, with messy green hair, wide eyes of a matching shade, and a small dusting of freckles on each cheek. He was a little on the shorter side when compared to some of the others in their class, but he wasn't exactly small either. He looked familiar, but Kurai couldn't place why until Iida went over to introduce himself. Wait, that's the kid he called out for talking during the lecture, Kurai realized with interest. Wait, hang on, is he apologizing to this guy? He never apologizes to anybody except Tensei and his parents. The blue-haired boy was still talking to him when the final member of their class showed up, a short girl with brown hair and rosy cheeks that gave her a very cute appearance. She seemed to know the green-haired boy, who had introduced himself as Izuku Midoriya, and went about congratulating him on getting into the school with an energy that seemed to rival Mina's. I wonder if he's the other one that people have been talking about. The student sitting next to Kurai, a boy with the head of a raven, said in a low tone. What'd he do? Kurai asked in spite of himself. The other student glanced at him, then replied, Supposedly he took down a 0-point robot on his own, and with quite the display of theatrics if the rumors are true. Huh, Kurai muttered. Personally, he hadn't found the colossal robot difficult to deal with. Its sheer size and slow movements provided anyone with the skills an ample opportunity to hit it in its critical areas, rendering it ineffective. To be fair, though, most people don't have my offensive capabilities or the training to use them, he reasoned. He was about to say something to the bird-headed boy, but then everyone's attention was diverted to a most bizarre sight. A 6-foot-tall caterpillar with a man's head lying on the ground, staring up at the students in the doorway with blurry, uninterested eyes. Wait, is he a teacher? Kurai wondered as the man muttered something to the trio of students standing nearest to him that he could not make out. Are we going to be taught by Butterfly Man? The thought made him snicker with laughter. That is, until there was the sound of a zipper coming undone and a thin man dressed in a black and gray scarf emerged from the sleeping bag he had apparently been getting around in. He transferred his disinterested gaze over to the rest of the class as he mumbled, Hello, I'm Shota Aizawa. I'm your teacher. His black hair was long enough to fall to his shoulders, almost covering his bloodshot eyes and a thin face with a week's worth of stubble on it. This guy? Kurai thought with a polite disbelief. He looks like he needs a nap. Or a fix.
I'm not sure how he got hired in the nation's top hero school, but I guess we'll get an idea about that before long. Your reaction time is insufficient. Aizawa continued as he reached into his yellow sleeping bag without blinking. It took you all 8 seconds to shut up when I first got here. That won't do. His hand emerged, holding a medium-sized blue shirt with the school's initials done in red and white across the front. Put these on and come outside. A quirk assessment test? The cry went up from at least a dozen other classmates as they stood out in the PE field. They were all changed out of their day uniforms and had exchanged them for the physical education clothes that their teacher had provided. Hang on, what about the introduction ceremony? The brown-haired girl that had arrived last demanded. We're gonna miss it. If you want to make the big leagues, you can't waste time on pointless parties. Aizawa replied without looking at them. Here at UA, we're not tethered to tradition. That means I get to run my class however I choose. There were some looks of dissent among the students, but no one was foolish enough to argue with him outright. Turning around to face his class, Aizawa said, You've all been taking standardized tests for most of your lives, unfortunately. The government is still trying to push the idea that all men are created equal. We're not. Someday the learning systems in our country will realize that, but for now, I'll just have to correct their mistake. Hikari! Present? The boy said nervously as he stepped forward, aware that every eye was on him. The man had called out his name suddenly, without any indication that he was going to ask for a volunteer. Aizawa's gaze fell directly on him, and he swallowed nervously as he felt himself being studied by his instructor. You set a new record for the entrance exam, he stated, causing the boy to wince slightly as he heard several people behind him begin to whisper interestedly. Then the man asked, What was your longest throw with the softball in junior high? 62, 63 meters, Kurai answered. Here, his teacher said, tossing him a large ball that looked as though it had been teched out somehow. Throw this, but use your quirk to get it to go as far as you can. Kurai blinked at the ball a couple times, then muttered, Okay, sure, I'll do that. Here's to hoping this thing can take the impact from my quirk. As if sensing his concern, Aizawa added, It's a lot more durable than it looks. Give it your all. Yes, sir. Kurai nodded, feeling a little more confident now. As he walked over to the pitching ring, he heard the blonde boy from before muttering, That guy set the new record? He looks even more boring than Deku. How's a small fry like him supposed to be the next #1? His tone was laced with generous amounts of resentment that Kurai did not understand. I haven't done anything to him, he thought with a frown as he stood in the circle. And who's Deku? Taking a pincher's stance, he thought, doesn't matter. The only thing I need is to focus on keeping control. Drawing in a deep breath, he exhaled slowly, then wound up his arm even as he triggered his quirk. Letting out a raw-throated yell, he willed as much energy as he could manage into the hand, sending it forth just as he threw the ball toward the horizon. A yellow beam of pure energy shot out, propelling the bar far beyond what any normal throw might have. When he had lost sight of the ball, he ended the energy flow and lowered his arm, breathing deeply to keep his pulse settled. Most of the students in the class were amazed by the distance he had put on, but as he had expected, the blonde kid simply sneered at him before turning away to look at the teacher, who was holding up a smartphone with blue numbers on the display that read 780.6 meters. Well done, Kurai! Iida laughed as he returned to the group of students. It's been a while since I've seen your quirk in action. You've gotten a lot stronger than I thought. I'm sure I could say the same about you. Kurai grinned confidently at his friend. Glancing over his shoulder at the blonde boy, he added, Looks are often deceiving. What appears to be plain to the average eye can hold great potential, and those that look great are often idiots puffed up of hot air. Among other things. The hell do you say? The blonde boy exploded, literally. Actual explosions lit up as he held his hands in claw-like grips while his red eyes glowed with hate. You want to repeat that? Kurai, don't, Iida said sternly as he held his friend back from doing or saying something he might regret later. Is there a problem? Aizawa asked sternly. No, sir, Kurai answered as he forced himself to break eye contact with the other boy. Sorry, sir. His rival continued to glare at him until Aizawa said, Bakugo, unless you want to sit out the rest of today's activities, I suggest you simmer down. The blonde kid snorted and let off one more small explosion before turning to face the teacher again. So today we get to take physical tests while using our quirks? A boy with a golden yellow hair asked. That's so cool! Yeah, I want to try, Mina added. This looks like fun, the brown-haired girl exclaimed. Fun, huh? Aizawa asked them in a tone that immediately set them all on edge. You all have 3 years to become pro heroes. You really think that it's all going to be fun and games? When no one answered, he gave them a chilling smile and said, Idiots. Today you will all compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in last has none, and will be expelled immediately. Everyone reacted with shock and a bit of fear. You said they weren't tethered to tradition, but that's pushing it, Kurai thought a bit angrily. The brown-haired girl stepped up and protested, saying, That's not fair! We all worked really hard to get here. You can't just send one of us home after everything we've been through. Not fair, Aizawa repeated mockingly. Do you think natural disasters and villains will care about what's fair? Life isn't fair, kids. It's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. Understand? In order to become a pro, you will have to push yourselves to the brink. So for the next 3 years, UA will throw one terrible hardship after another at you. You will have to go beyond. Plus Ultra style. Another cold smile was added to his face as Aizawa made a beckoning motion to them all and said, Show me it's no mistake that you're here. Iida and Kurai exchanged an uneasy glance. I don't like this, Iida muttered. But if it's how the school does things, I suppose we should respect it. Can't say I like it either, but I suppose I see the sense in it. Kurai replied, also speaking softly. If they're training us to risk our lives, they can't really make room for people that could wind up getting themselves or others killed. If we're done wasting time chatting, we should get moving, their teacher ordered as he moved away. Let the games begin. The first test was a 50-meter dash. Kurai watched as the other students put on displays of their power, some of which were fairly straightforward, like Iida's engine quirk that allowed his legs to carry him at high speeds comparable to Formula One cars if he got into high enough gear. Others were less so, but several of them showed ingenuity, such as the blonde boy whose quirk allowed him to unleash a beam of sparkling energy from his navel, which could propel him through the air if he jumped up first. Another was Bakugo, who used his explosive abilities to enhance his speed by propelling himself with combustion aimed behind him. So he does have an impressive enough quirk, and the brains to use it. Kurai thought as he watched him blaze past Midoriya, whose quirk apparently didn't work well in a running situation, because he didn't use it at all. Trigger Happy needs to work on that attitude if he wants to be a pro, though. He found himself competing against a boy whose elbows apparently shot out strong adhesive tape named Sero. He used his quirk in the race to essentially slingshot himself toward the finish line, clearing it in just under 6 seconds. Kurai took a page out of the naval laser boy in Bakugo's book, using his Energon quirk to send him flying across the finish line in a little over 4 seconds. He mistimed the landing, though, and wound up rolling in the dirt a couple of times before springing lightly to his feet. Well, that was new, he muttered as he dusted himself off. I need to practice it some more before I try that in combat. Hey, you still beat me, so I'd count that as a win, Sero said as he walked up to him. Nice quirk, by the way. Not so bad yourself, Kurai answered as he shook hands with the other boy. I gotta say, I've never seen one quite like it before, and I'm hoping that'll be to my advantage once we start our careers. The other boy grinned. The more unique the quirk, the more memorable the hero, right? That's true enough. The next event was the grip strength test, in which Kurai scored an impressive 462 kilograms. The only student to surpass him was the boy with 6 arms, coming in with a score of 540 kilograms. Kurai was surprised at first, but then he found himself smiling about it. It's good to know I'm not in the top bracket for everything, he thought. If I was, what would be left for me to work toward? He noticed that the plain-looking kid, Midoriya, was looking glum as he stared at his result of 56 kilograms on the grip tester. Seeing it, Kurai walked over to him and said, Hey. Yes? The boy stammered, looking up and backing away a half-pace, causing Kurai to look at him curiously. I know I'm normally more of a shy guy, but even I'm not that edgy around people, he thought to himself. Pushing aside the observation, he said, I don't mean to pry, but are you feeling alright? You looked out of sorts this entire class. Well, the green-haired boy stammered. I'm just, having trouble controlling my quirk is all. Oh, Kurai said, a little surprised. If he doesn't have proper control over his quirk, how'd he get into UA? I guess I'm just really afraid of what'll happen if I use it, Midoriya added. Kurai's head snapped up at that, and a measure of sympathy entered his heart. I can understand that completely, he told the other boy. When Midoriya looked a question at him, he explained, My quirk, Energon, it's pretty powerful, right? Yeah, I can see how you would have done so well in the entrance exam, Midoriya said, his eyes shining with admiration. Well, be that as it may, it can be just as dangerous to me as it is to others, Kurai replied as he reached up and tapped himself on the forehead. The part of my brain that triggers my quirk is located in my frontal cortex. After a slight pause, he asked, You know what part of the brain that is? As they were speaking, the other students were moving to put away the equipment, so they moved to join them while talking in lowered voices. It's the area that keeps your impulses in check, right? Midoriya guessed. Pretty much, yeah, Kurai nodded. The more it's used, the harder it is to control darker emotions like rage, hate, aggression. You get the idea. Wait, so if you overuse your quirk, Midoriya said in a low tone. Remember how I was ready to go all ham on Mr. Firecracker? The boy replied to his classmate. Normally I'd be a lot more like you. Right now, I'm feeling pretty confident because I've been using my quirk a bit more than I normally do, which means my frontal cortex has been taxed a fair amount. Well, my quirk makes me super strong, but I can only use it once before I get knocked out of the fight, Midoriya admitted nervously. Whichever part of my body that I channel my power, it gets broken really badly as soon as I use it. Broken? Kurai repeated. As in broken bone? Bones, Midoriya nodded with a wince. Ouch. His comrade grimaced. So, you're pretty much counting on one excellent score to carry you out of last place? Yeah, Midoriya admitted. Well, Kurai muttered while scratching his head. Have you tried to decrease the amount of power you're putting into each move? Yeah, but so far all it's gotten me is not using it at all, his classmate groaned. My quirk didn't show up until last year, actually, and I haven't really had much chance to train with it so I don't hurt myself every time that I use it. Oh boy, Kurai grimaced again. Well, crap, man. How do you control your power? Midoriya asked him. Before he could answer, Midoriya added, I mean, it's probably different from how I need to control mine, but it would be helpful to have some kind of reference since I don't really have anything to go on myself, and at this point something's better than nothing, not to mention... Midoriya! Kurai exclaimed, cutting the boy off and startling him. Sorry, just... Do you want my answer or not? Yes, please, the green-haired boy answered abashed. I have a habit of rambling, I guess. You guess? His classmate asked dubiously. Before Midoriya could answer that, he said, never mind. The truth is that I simply have a lot of practice controlling the energy output, and now it's more of an instinct than anything. Taking a second to marshal his thoughts, he added, but when I was a kid, I did set up a sort of pattern that I would use before I engaged my quirk. It took way longer to use it than it does for me to use it now, but maybe it's something you could try. I'm willing to try anything at this point, Midoriya said desperately. Okay, you said decreasing the power output didn't help, right? Kurai asked. Yeah. Okay, so what I want you to do is picture the energy in your body like a great big river headed for a waterfall. By now, the class was back outside in preparation for the standing long jump event, and everyone was more or less milling about as they waited for Aizawa to call them by name. River headed for a waterfall? Midoriya questioned, a blank look on his face. Just close your eyes, picture it as best as you can, Kurai told him. Although, word of advice, don't do this when you need to go to the bathroom. Doesn't end well. In spite of himself, Midoriya let out a short burst of laughter, but he quickly recomposed himself. He closed his eyes and furrowed his brow in concentration, keeping his breathing even as best as he could. You got the picture? Kurai prompted him as Aizawa called up a student named Kaminari. Yes, Midoriya answered seriously. Okay, now picture yourself at the bottom of that waterfall, standing in front of it, Kurai ordered. You're so close you could reach out and touch it. Take one step and you'll be under the full force of it. Are you there? I thought the water was the energy inside of my body, so how? Take it or leave it. Sorry, the other boy yelped. Kurai take a moment to make sure that his own pulse was settled before he said, This is a metaphor, so just humor me, all right? When Midoriya nodded in agreement, Kurai went on to say, Now in your mind's eye, I want you to reach out and try to keep your hand level under the pressure of the water. Why just my hand? Midoriya asked, though he kept his eyes closed. Because if you attempt to put your whole body in and withstand it without first conditioning your mind and body to handle it, you'll be crushed by the energy, Kurai said dryly. In your case, that's broken bones, as I understand it. Right. Just try to keep that image in your head next time you try to use your power, the black-haired boy told him. It'll be slow, but hopefully it'll help you gain some control. He clapped Midoriya on the shoulder and then went to join Iida. What happened to you? The other boy's question stopped Kurai in his tracks and made him turn around to look at Midoriya, confused. What? Sorry, I meant, what happened to you when you tried to stand under the waterfall? Midoriya asked. Kurai's countenance darkened considerably before he answered. I nearly died. Then he walked away, leaving Midoriya feeling quite stunned. What were you talking to Midoriya about? Iida asked his friend as soon as he got close. He needs help controlling his power, so I gave him a few pointers, Kurai answered. Ah, Iida nodded, apparently unsurprised by the revelation. Yes, I saw what happened to him when he used it against the 0-point robot. He nearly got himself killed, but it was an impressive display of power nonetheless. Miss Uraraka actually saved him from death by a fall right after the fact, actually. Which one is her? Iida said, indicating the girl that had been talking to Midoriya and Iida during the beginning of the class. Huh, Kurai said, apparently non-committal. She's pretty cute, actually. For the long jump, Kurai chose not to use his energy blast to send him flying again, but rather decided to reinforce his limbs with his energon like he normally would. This is a contest, he reminded himself. I can't take too many chances. Besides, I need to keep my head on straight, and energy blasts are more taxing on my brain to produce than just enhancing my body to achieve the same thing. He scored fairly high compared to most of the other students, but the highest score went to Bakugo, who appeared very pleased with himself about it. Kurai ignored him, but felt strangely competitive when faced with the prospect of losing to such an arrogant person. My quirk must be responsible for this, he decided. However, in the back of his mind, he knew that he was only making excuses for himself. His thoughts were interrupted when he noticed Midoriya taking his place at the jump point. Come on, man, he thought, trying to send encouragement to his classmate through the silent message. Midoriya met his eyes and flashed him a nervous grin before taking his stance, a look of intense concentration furrowing his brow. He held that position for a few seconds before Aizawa called out, Are you going to take a jump or a dump, Midoriya? We don't have all day. Yes, the poor boy stammered as he straightened. No. Looks like Midoriya's going to be the one to go home, Kirishima said with a slightly disappointed look. Of course he is, Bakugo snorted. He's a quirkless loser. He has a quirk, Iida protested. Huh? Didn't you hear about what he did during the practical exam? Just jump and get it over with, the teacher sighed while Iida and Bakugo began to squabble. Kurai considered jumping in, but then decided against it. He had better things to do with his fresh air than wasted on the likes of Bakugo. Yes, sir, Midoriya replied to Aizawa. He took his stance again, and this time Kurai felt a change in the atmosphere around the boy. It was almost as though the air was shuddering from where he stood as if trying to get away from the impending storm about to break. I really hope he's not about to break himself, Kurai thought with a grimace. Then, with a yell, Midoriya launched himself forward and cleared 50 meters in the blink of an eye. Kurai blinked a couple of times to make sure he wasn't just seeing things, but his eyes did not lie. Midoriya was lying in the dirt, panting from the effort he had just exerted, but there was no denying that he had indeed cleared a great distance in less than a second. Even Iida would need to be in a pretty high gear to cover that much distance that quickly, Kurai thought, impressed. At least now I see why he's been afraid of using his power. If that's just the tip of the iceberg, the full power must wield something on a level I've never even seen before. Midoriya got to his feet, wobbling, but smiling as he turned to face Kurai, who gave him a thumbs up. Then the green-haired boy's face went from one of triumph to one of fear, and Kurai realized that he wasn't looking at him anymore. Turning slightly, he noticed that Bakugo looked as though he was about to have an aneurysm. Then, without warning, he shot forward, an explosion lighting up in his right hand as he screamed, "Deku, you bastard! Tell me how you did that or you're dead!" Ah! Midoriya squawked as he held up his hands to shield himself from Bakugo's fiery wrath. Kurai's eyebrows met in a sharp V and he aimed his palms at Bakugo, ready to pulverize him with a barrage of energy blasts. Fortunately, it didn't come to that. Before either of the boys could harm anybody, a gray fabric shot out and wound itself around Bakugo multiple times, holding him in place more tightly than steel chains. At the same time, his explosions went out like candles cut off from any oxygen. "What the?" Bakugo snarled as he craned his neck to see who had bound him. "Is this your freaking scarf?" Aizawa was staring at his student, his eyes glowing crimson while his hair and scarf floated above his head. "This is a capture weapon designed to use on villains," he replied with a hint of anger in his tone. "Don't bother trying to use your quirk on it. I've erased it." "Wait a sec," Midoriya gasped, his eyes going wide. "I know you! You're that pro-hero Eraserhead! Your quirk lets you suppress the powers of anyone you're looking at!" "Anything else that's blatantly obvious you feel like adding?" The teacher deadpanned, even while Bakugo struggled in vain against the scarf. No, sir," Midoriya stammered as he backed away from Aizawa. Fixing his attention back on his explosive student, the teacher said, "I expect better of my students than starting fights, Bakugo. This will be the last time I have to use my quirk on you, unless you want to suffer some serious consequences." Without bothering to wait for an acknowledgement from the boy, Aizawa released the tension on his scarf and stopped using his quirks, returning his appearance to that of a tired, haggard man. Turning to the others, he said, "Come on then, we don't have all day." With that, he started to wade through his students. Bakugo turned to follow, but not once did his eyes leave the ground. Kurai could practically feel his anger roiling off of him like a heat wave, even from the distance that separated them. However, he did stop by Midoriya and say, "You surprised me, kid. I thought you were going to break yourself with reckless abandon like in the practical." Before Kurai could give his classmate another thumbs up, Aizawa turned his withering gaze on him, instantly rendering him silent and still. "Next time you think about blasting one of your classmates outside of my combat practice, remember what I told Bakugo," he said quietly. "I won't tolerate that kind of behavior in my class." Once he was out of earshot, Iida muttered, "Only the first day and you're already on his bad side. That has to be another record, right? Iida, I will rip the engines out of your legs and put them on my motorcycle." The rest of the test passed without incident, and Kurai was able to congratulate Midoriya on the use of his quirk without breaking his bones in between the ball throw and the seated toe touch. When he did, the freckled boy grimaced and said, "Yeah, well, I'm not broken, but I think I sprained my wrist pretty bad with the ball throw. I went in and stuck my arm in the waterfall instead of just my hand." He held up his arm for inspection, revealing it to be swollen and slightly discolored. "Ow," Kurai grimaced. "You should go see the nurse after class, because that doesn't heal up right. You're going to have bigger issues than just a sprain. Honestly, that looks kind of broken." "I was afraid you'd say that," Midoriya groaned. "I'm still back to square one if it is." "I wouldn't say that," Kurai said, trying to sound encouraging. "You didn't break your legs now, did you?" "No, but they're kind of sore too," the boy admitted. "What, sore like the arm?" "No, more like I've been walking in them all day without a break." Kurai snorted with a hint of derision and said, "Then you're making progress. Don't be so hard on yourself, man. It's not like the world is counting on us just yet." Right," Midoriya said with a nervous laugh. "I guess that's true." When the scores were revealed at the end of the class, Kurai was able to let out a breath of relief that he hadn't known that he was holding in. He had taken the top spot, just ahead of a girl named Momo Yaoyorozu, who had apparently gotten into the academy on recommendation, so he felt quite proud of that. Iida took 5th place, which he seemed satisfied with. Midoriya, Kurai was pleased to see, had taken 11th with his newly developed control over his quirk. He had hoped that his new classmate would score higher, but he had been impeded by the pain of his arm, and had admittedly hurt his later scores. Still, he had borne the pain without complaint, silently working alongside the other students in order to try his best to win Aizawa's approval. Unfortunately, someone had to come in last place, and it turned out to be a girl named Toru Hagakure. Her quirk was heteromorphic in nature, which basically meant it didn't turn off, ever. The only issue was that, unlike the boy with the 6 arms that could spawn different body parts on the end of them, her quirk was simply rendered her invisible. She had no edge over the others when it came to running fast or jumping high, which meant that she performed at the level of an average athlete from their class group. In a class full of people like Kurai and Bakugo, she never stood a chance. The poor girl was bawling her eyes out when Aizawa said in a flat tone, "By the way, I lied about expelling the loser." This took a few seconds for the class to process, and when they did, many of them let out exclamations of protest and condemnation. The teacher simply gave them a crooked smile in response and said, "I just used irrational deception to make sure you kids give it your all." "How are we supposed to trust what you say now?" Kurai demanded angrily. He had been using his quirk to great effect for all the tests, and it was showing in his flushed face and trembling fists that were kept at his side. "Kurai, you need to cool down," Iida said worriedly. Of all the people there, he alone knew exactly what would happen if Kurai's temper exploded, and the consequences it could bring about. "I'm not happy about his methods either, but this isn't the time or place to raise your concerns." Kurai's breaths accelerated, and he glared at his best friend, every fiber of his being demanding that he punch him for demanding restraint. In his head, he knew that Iida was just trying to help, but every other part of his existence craved violence at that moment. He was about to use an energy blast that would put Aizawa in his place when he felt something wet slide down his lips and fall into the dust with a soft plop. "Kurai," Iida said, his face going white. Instantly, the boy's anger fled into the corners of his mind, where it would not be forgotten, but could be sorted out later when he was more capable of doing so. In its place came a raw animal terror that saw him falling on his rump as he clutched at his face while blood sheeted from his nose and pain stabbed through his head before he blacked out.
All right, assuming you're here after you've suffered through my my dramatic reading of the second proper chapter, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about it. We are now going to go through kind of the behind the scenes through the making of this chapter. On the whole, it's not a actually no, there are some pretty major differences that happen in this one as opposed to what happened in the anime episode. Let's just start with them going up to class. In the anime, of course, Deku's the main focus. You're gonna follow him up to class, but in this one, Kurai is the main character for the most part, and I kind of wanted to get a chance to explore what his relationship with Iida is a little more, because I touched on that. Their families met up. They opened their letters together to show their acceptances. Acceptances? What's the plural of that?
Acceptance letters.
Acceptance letters. Okay, that's the plural I should have gone with. Sorry. But now we actually get to see them. Hey, they're going to be in the same class together. Awesome. So naturally, they've been friends for a while. They'd be talking about this. They'd be like, hey, this is going to be cool. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be studying together. And I also like to start things off with a little bit of friendly bickering.
Yeah,
Sue me.
That's great.
You
can see they're close friends because they can give each other crap.
What I'm honestly curious about, though, from an outsider's perspective, is I'm not entirely sure where the friendly bickering kind of thing comes in, to show that they're close. For me, it's I do that a lot with my brothers, and I think I do that somewhat with my closer friends. But that's where I think it comes from. Do you?
Yeah, I think most people don't feel comfortable doing that unless they know the person really well, and so I think it just makes sense that you'd have obviously that's what you're trying to convey,
which already is a slight of that is what I'm trying to do, but I think that already kind of no I agree with you. I think
I didn't know what you were asking
for. Sorry, I'm tired, I'm not asking questions well. Sorry, that's what it was. You think this kind of is already changing Iida a little bit? Because in the show, I wouldn't imagine him to take insults from anybody very well. He's that stiff, robotic personality almost.
I think growing up with Kurai, this Iida is definitely better at taking a joke. He's still Iida. Yes. But he seems...
He argues with Bakugo, right away.
He seems a little bit less stiff, at least with Kurai, not necessarily with everybody else so far.
Yeah, I think he has to be familiar with somebody still before he, like you were saying, he's not going to take a joke from just anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
What happens next?
What happens next is Kurai's kind of trying to keep a low head, and Kirishima like, "Oh, you're that guy," and Kurai's like, "And here it comes."
Yeah, and he seems like he really likes Kirishima, and he likes a lot of people in the room, but he's not like.
Or at least he feels like he could get along with them a little bit.
Yeah, and he's one of those introverts who can kind of sit there and gauge the room and get a pretty good idea of where people are at, who's kind of got good vibes and who he kind of wants to stay away from.
I would say that I based his level of introvertedness at least somewhat off of yours.
Yeah.
I mean, like, whether or not it was, like, now that I think about it, like, I'm not sure if that was a conscious decision or not, but, I mean, I think it works for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it works, and I think because we have Deku, and he is like, he's so used to analyzing heroes that whenever he enters a room, it's like, oh my gosh, this person's quirk is like this, or this person, maybe they do this, I don't know. So he's
not used to like having healthy interactions with face-to-face people.
Exactly.
Because Bakugo, anytime he has a face-to-face interaction with someone, it usually ends with a burn mark or an explosion in his face.
Yeah, he's been bullied so much that he's in this like kind of on edge,
shell-shocked almost.
Way.
Shell-shocked, yeah.
He's in survival mode, and that's I think a lot of people who've been through a lot get into that survival mode when they enter a room with new people. And so at this point, Kurai has not experienced having to be in that kind of survival mode. So he is analyzing the room in a similar way, but he's much more relaxed. He's more socially aware.
And we don't really know why he's so guarded against, like, he's like, I suppose guarded is the wrong word, but he's still a lot more reserved than you might expect him to be, because yes, he did go to a private academy where it said, like, he was well respected, like Iida, but why, the question still is, like, okay, why is this guy so kind of, like, holding back from everybody, and, like, why is he like, not afraid, but apprehensive about people giving him attention? There's a very specific reason for that, which I'm very excited for people to learn about, which I think is going to come in chapter 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
I'm happy about that.
Then we have Aizawa, we have the quirk test, which that's, those two, the beginning of that scene is pretty similar.
Yeah, the beginning scene is, but the duration of it is fairly different.
Yeah, because then we have Deku and Kurai meeting, and you have this kind of empathy moment happen between them, which I think is kind of unique for you, because usually your OCs struggle with empathy.
Goran, Mutaris, like, the main characters.
They're pretty dense.
They're dense, and they do not empathize. Like, I don't know if Mutaris is dense necessarily, as it is, he just doesn't care. Yeah. Goran is kind of dense in the social aspect.
Yeah.
Both of them have a very, very hard time empathizing with others, and that's something that I struggle with a lot in my day-to-day life. So writing Kurai is kind of a personal challenge for me to, like, make myself be empathetic towards the other characters.
Yeah. So it's like he has this moment where he kind of relates to Deku on this, kind of like really emotional level. And he's like, oh, dude, I want to help this guy out. And because, obviously he's had a little more time to work on his quirk. He has, some pointers for him, which it seems like kind of get the gears turning in Deku's.
Or at least Deku doesn't like full on break his finger. Like, it's like he probably has like a stress fracture in his arm from trying to throw the ball, and he's like, yeah, that was my bad. I shouldn't have tried to push it. And Kurai's like, don't worry about it, man. At least you're not like full on breaking your legs and stuff. Because he was able to do the long jump without like hurting himself at all. Like, he made his legs feel like sore after a really good workout. But I mean, that's quite a difference to between like Deku places in 11th. Like, that's a really big improvement from him placing 20th. And real quick, as for why Hagakure came in last, I went through and I watched the episode really carefully. I had to see like who came. Originally, I was going to do it off of who came in 19th. Purple Blob came in 19th, which doesn't surprise me because his quirk is not very useful. And then Hagakure was the one who came in 18th. So by process of elimination, she would have ended up in last.
And it just makes sense because, like Aizawa states later on in the show that you guys have seen, it's not really fair to measure everybody the same way because quirks are so different.
Yeah. I think he still would have, given the circumstances, I honestly think he still would have kept her around because, like he said, hey, I lied to you because I wanted to make sure you gave it your all. And if nobody had, and if he didn't think she had some potential, bye, go home. I don't need you here.
Yeah, because we know normally he would have done that because of his conversation in the original show with All Might.
With All Might. Yeah, All Might's like, he's like, that's not cool, dude. You would have, he's like, you weren't lying to them. You would have sent an entire class home if you thought it suited you. And Aizawa was like, I have my reasons for what I do. Goodbye. Have a good day, sir. Bye. I'm leaving now. I don't like you. And then, like I said during the reviews toward the beginning of this video, Kurai has a very, very dangerous it's very, very dangerous for him to use his quirk too much. Now, what that exactly is, you'll find at the beginning of the next chapter. I promise you that.
But also, we start seeing, this guy isn't really perfect. He's got some struggles because it's almost like his quirk, and I think this is, I don't know, I could be mistaken, but it seems to me that I haven't seen any drawbacks to a quirk interfere with someone's personality before.
I would say no.
So far, at least. We haven't read the manga, but at least in the show we haven't.
Actually, twice. The villain, the guy that duplicates stuff, like, that did a number on him. He duplicated himself, and like when his clones like killed each other, and he was the only one left, he's like, "Wait, am I even a clone?"
That was more of a PTSD thing, though. I think
this is true.
With Kurai, it's literally a chemical thing that's happening in his brain that's causing him to have this erratic, different behavior that's not like he would normally be if he wasn't using his quirk. So I feel like that's the part of yourself. Maybe I'm mistaken that you're kind of putting into this character.
Is it?
Well, it seems to me, because, you talk, since I don't know how much you want to share on the video, but, struggling with mood disorders, that's something that, some days you're yourself, you're normal, you can have great interactions, and then some days something's going on in your brain where it's really, really hard, and all of a sudden you're acting a lot differently than you normally would.
This is very true. Yeah, this is something that I've really had a hard time with, for about half of my life now, at least. Not even a diagnosed sense. In a diagnosed sense, I want to say it's been like the last 7 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, even before that, I've had a really hard time. Like I said before, I have a really hard time empathizing with other people.
Just regulating emotions in general.
Yeah. So that I guess that is something that I'm putting into Kurai. So like, his normal personality is like, and it's not like a split personality or a dissociated personality either.
No, it's just there's certain times when he has a lot harder of a time filtering through those emotions and making logical decisions.
And while he tells Deku, like, my quirk literally puts my frontal cortex in overdrive. And like, if you know anything about psychology when it comes to middle and high school boys, especially.
That is not fully developed for a long time in boys.
So for him to be more or less abusing it with his quirk, that's going to make things worse for him.
Yeah.
So.
As a teacher, you know that when you have boys and girls, the reason high school boys, and especially middle school boys, and they just randomly think, I'm just going to jump up on top of my desk and start screaming and doing random weird stuff. It's because the part of their brain that teaches them, maybe I shouldn't do this because something bad could happen, hasn't really developed yet.
Kurai doesn't do anything like that, but he's at the end of it, like, you can see he's like that explains why he was like kind of like trying to restrain himself against those other students during the first chapter. He's like, seriously, dude, don't come near me. I'm gonna give you more than you can handle.
Yeah, because it's just it's that part of your brain that helps you make that decision. Cause and effect. This could be what happens. I can't think of the word.
This is the consequence that I will face if I do this action. And at the end of this chapter, he's like, Aizawa, you're a bad teacher. I'm going to laser you to the face.
Yeah, and at the beginning of this chapter, he never would have done that. He was being very respectful. He was keeping his mouth shut. And so you see this huge, like, drastic change that comes over him the more he's been using it.
like, if you want to say plot armor here, it's like he starts having a nosebleed and it's like, what the heck is with that? And he like passes out at the end of the chapter. You'll find out at the beginning of the next chapter, like exactly what happens when he overuses his quirk, like the full extent of the dangers of him using that. But I think that's pretty much.
That's about it.
Yeah. For the most part, like I just wanted to drop in, like I wanted to expand more on his relationship with Iida, kind of put some solid roots between him and Izuku, and then I just kind of wanted to just the other character dynamic. Like he talks to Sarah a little bit, he talks to Kirishima, he seems to like them two. He's like, cool, these guys seem like people I could get along with. So we'll see how those play out. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed this our responses to your reviews at the beginning of the chapter. I hope you enjoyed my dramatic reading, and I hope you enjoyed our little behind the scenes segment here. Yes, I was able to get that without being a tongue twister. You have any closing comments?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I will see you guys for the next video. Please be sure to look out for the physical release of this onto fanfiction.net, which will be a week from now, which is May, I want to say 2nd. Yes, May 2nd of 2020. So thank you so much for listening in, you guys, and I hope you have a very good week amid all this whole COVID-19 thing. Please stay safe, stay in touch with your loved ones, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.